weekend for all these rookie quarterbacks. Everybody kind of looked like you thought they would look. Like Bo Nix was accurate. Caleb Williams can move. Drake May's got some rust. He just needs – I feel like with Drake May, we should just wait a year and then come back in a year and make a judgment on him. He's just not as polished as everybody was, and you kind of knew that coming in. But Caleb Williams, I love what teammates are saying about him because you can't fool teammates. DJ Moore said, outstanding. Cole Kmet, the tight end, said, second to none. So he had 102 passer rating, 13-yard scramble, 20 snaps. And what's interesting about Caleb is you have to, like Jordan Love of the Packers, you have to go to the year before he was drafted. So the year before Caleb was drafted, 42 touchdown passes, 5 picks, 4,500 yards. And then the final year at USC, O-line was a mess. The team was not competitive by week 8. They wouldn't call certain plays because the O-line struggled. They didn't want to get him hurt. But like Jordan Love, because college, you can have really good coaches get replaced by a really bad coach. In the NFL, even bad coaching is usually competent. USC last year had an incompetent defensive coordinator. They couldn't stop anybody. Every game was a track meet. Every game you had to throw 50 times. Like you couldn't, that's the way it works. So in college football, you can replace a good coach or hire a coach that just isn't good. In the NFL, you may be a bad fit, but most people are competent, Brandon Staley aside. But I think when I watch Caleb Williams, I feel like because Lincoln Riley was polarizing and is, and the way he left Oklahoma, and because Caleb Williams was the first NIL star and the fingernails, and he's emotional, he's polarizing. So there's some haters out there. There's no question. There's haters. Whereas if Baker Mayfield comes in, he's a little shorter than he should be. He almost looked plump. He's not hyper athletic. Translation, American guys can root for him. He kind of looks like them. Caleb Williams doesn't.
Oh my God.
And the Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma for USC. And it's Hollywood. It's arrogant. It's USC. It's Southern California. People that don't go to Southern California, have never lived there, go to the internet, they're all experts on it. They've all got an opinion on it. So don't allow your feelings to get in the way of the truth here. The arm, the movement, the confidence, it's just different. Mahomes is a completely accurate comp. And it's not his fault the NIL exploded when Caleb Williams came to USC. One of his early deals, he got all his offensive linemen paid. If you remember the Heisman ceremony, he had his offensive linemen there. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think, as Jordan Palmer said Thursday on this show, I think he got bored. I think he was bored last year at USC. And once they weren't competitive, once they weren't going to get to the playoff, the coaches didn't want to call certain plays. They didn't trust the offensive line. Lincoln Riley won him the Heisman. Lincoln Riley was not going to get Caleb Williams hurt. He was not going to play him late in games. He was not going to get him hurt. He would not call certain protections. So go like Jordan Love. Go to the year before, where Caleb Williams took 4-8 and an awful roster to one play away from 12-2. One play against Tulane. And what's interesting is, as I was watching this, usually big cities, not small towns, are on the cutting edge of things. You know, many of the, Silicon Valley in California or Wall Street in New York, cutting edge technology don't come from small towns. But little small Green Bay in the same division has been light years ahead of Chicago's offense forever. And I felt like watching it this weekend, the Bears offense finally got Wi-Fi. It's like, oh, no more AOL and that weird clunky sound. That's Wi-Fi. It's magical. That's what it felt like. It's going to be efficient. It's going to be dynamic. It's going to be a lot of wow. And you only saw a couple of snaps, but I feel like there's not one word to describe Chicago offense. There's like 20, and they're all bad. In the same division with small market Green Bay that doesn't attract free agents, Green Bay's been doing offense right forever, and Chicago's never done it right, and they got Wi-Fi. All right, also, Jaden Daniels probably made the first.
All right, I guess he's not going to talk about the Chicago Bears anymore. Whew. I love Colin Cowherd. My absolute favorite. To me, he's honestly like the GOAT when it comes to this type of stuff. but I really have no idea what he's kind of getting at here. I mean, let me say before you're kind of like, wait, where are you about to go with this? Caleb Williams is absolutely amazing. I think what he did in preseason was great. The confidence that he showed, the smooth operating that he showed. I think if anything, the confidence more than anything is what I took away from that game. I don't want to get into the too nitty gritty of like what actually happened because it's preseason. It's truly preseason. Look no further than it's seemingly like half the quarterbacks of the names that we don't even know. I definitely don't even know of the most random names ever. Did technically better than Patrick Mahomes. So going into the numbers saying, oh, he threw for 95 yards and was, 8 for 12, like to me, that's useless. It really is. It's like the perfect example of throw stats out because, right, the matchups, who are they playing? Are they playing first string, second string? Like, what's actually going on? Is this team even good in the first place? Just look at what they can do. To me, you're measuring, are they confident? Was there more extremes like fumbled snaps like we saw with Justin Fields, for instance, right? Like, to me, when there's blatant negatives, that's when you can say, okay, this is telling. But when there's positives, you have to kind of be like, okay, there was positive, that's great, but it is preseason. It is a very specific circumstance, a very narrow snapshot. So that's why I'm just trying to look at, like, did he look like, to me, it's very binary. Did he look like an NFL quarterback? Yes or no? And the answer is an insane yes, right? Like, you can't watch that and watch him and not feel comfortable and confident and excited if you're a Chicago Bears fan. But this idea that that I don't know, people rooted for Baker Mayfield because he was smaller and plump, I think is what Colin said, and they're not rooting for Caleb because he's from Southern Cal, because he was like playing in Southern California and paints his nails. I don't even know how to go. I don't even know how to address that. Honestly, like I mean, like that's like such a connection that is just I'm just not seeing at all. First off, people love to hate Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield absolutely has die-hard fans that I have learned very vivid, very up close and personal. Because if you say anything negative about Baker, my God, do they come out in droves. And I know Colin has experienced that as well. He famously kind of had, that the issues with Baker. Caleb, that's not the case. Caleb is not necessarily getting any type of hate or trying to pull him down. Because sometimes hate, I think, is maybe potentially too strong of a word. The reason for it is because he's being crowned as the next big thing. And people do not like that. It's exactly what happened with LeBron James. Before LeBron James ever played, they didn't say, oh, well, we like to root for Kobe because he's an everyman. The guy was like, grew up abroad, had this great life, right? People rooted for Curry, also this beautiful, privileged life. So it's not like we only root for people who are just like an everyman. Some of it feels people want to root against Caleb because they feel like he's being crowned as the next big thing. They're saying he's Mahomes. That is what people had a major issue with LeBron James, because it was before he ever entered the league. It was just, he's the next Michael Jordan, he's the next Michael Jordan, he's the next Michael Jordan. And so now fans took issues with that a lot, right? They were like, he's not the next Michael Jordan. And they're like, no way, no way, no way. And they're either because they're big MJ fans or it just feels undeserved. And so people don't like people to just kind of get things, right? Like, there's the feeling of, if someone started a company and worked really hard and made lots of money, if you're an outsider looking in, you feel better about that rather than hearing that your neighbor just won the lottery. If your neighbor started a company, started Amazon, and they became a billionaire, you would be like, oh man, that's amazing, that's crazy. I can't believe he was smart enough to do that and be able to do that. Like, that's awesome. But if that same neighbor just won the lottery, you would be like, oh my God, I can't believe he bought the ticket down at the corner store. Oh my God, why didn't I buy that ticket? Right, there's that feeling. It feels undeserved. So some of the hate with Caleb is definitely personality, the painting nails. People have said very weird comments, but to me, that's a minority. Because I've seen a lot of people try to pull down Caleb in any of the videos that I've made, Chicago Bears fans as a whole. And I see that it seems to be more like people are just saying, you think that he's going to be so amazing. No, he's not. It feels very similar to LeBron James to me. You definitely have some people that are like, oh, no one will ever follow him because he cries to his mama, or he paints his nails or whatever. And it's just like, those comments are honestly few and far between. And for me, I barely even acknowledge it. I just write like LOL or something, because it's like, okay, dude, right, sure, they're not gonna follow him because he paints his nail. No one cares. It's 2024, and the people that do care, they're kind of getting pushed out. So it's just really not that relevant. So it's just, it's silly. And then also this idea though that you can't fool players. Yes and no, because players aren't going to say something that, and I know Colin doesn't fully believe this, because you can't fool players, but players aren't necessarily always truthful. To be clear, I think they're being truthful about Caleb. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. I think Caleb is going to be an elite quarterback in the NFL. I'm going to say it one more time. I think Caleb Williams will be an elite quarterback in the NFL. I've said a million times, I think the Chicago Bears can make the playoffs, will make the playoffs. I think that they're top 7 in the NFC. Let's go, right? Totally on board. But I am not using what the player said about him after this game as any type of information. Zero, okay? And I'm going to prove this. And I'm going to prove that Colin doesn't even necessarily believe it, because the same players absolutely have said incredibly positive things about Justin Fields. He does not think Justin Fields is a good quarterback. Players have absolutely, undeniably praised Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. Praised, whether it's Debo, Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, whoever. He does not think that Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy are good quarterbacks. I don't even think Colin has Brock Purdy in top 15. Definitely not top 10. So you can't just use something that players say. Kittle has praised Purdy and stuff like that. So, and he doesn't use that as saying, well, hey, look what Kittle and Christian McCaffrey are saying. Clearly, Brock Purdy is real, legit quarterback. You can't fool players. So again, it's just like that type of inconsistency that I'm like, what are we saying here? So again, we can say that Williams is great and played great and is going to be great, but I'm just not going to use like a random soundbite from a teammate saying he's great, second to none, let's go. It's like, okay, I love that. To me, what that says is that he's likable. That's what I take away from that more than anything, is that people like Caleb Williams. So those people that said that he can't lead a locker room, yeah, you're the one that has egg on your face, because it's obvious he can. So to me, I think more than anything, what this all shows is that Caleb is already a grown-up in the room. He's already a grown-up in the room. People like him. They want him to succeed. They're excited to succeed with him. And there's a buy-in to him as a quarterback that I don't think you had with, say, a Baker Mayfield, right? That's why when things weren't going great, there was issues. He had issues with players. He had issues with teammates, both opposing and on his own team, had issues with coaching staff, physical therapists, right? Like, you had those issues. So that's why it kind of falls, that's why I don't really wholeheartedly believe in the comparison, because they did completely different things, and people liked them or hated them for just completely different reasons relative to Caleb. I don't think that comparison really matters personally. But I think to me, the big takeaway is from that game is just that Caleb is clearly the leader. He's ready to lead. He's ready for the moment. He's mature. And it's just, I think he's going to have a great season. I really, really do. I think the only way he doesn't have a great season is if the Chicago Bears get consistently outcoached. That's the only way. I think if they just get outcoached, if Shane Waldron cannot execute good offenses against other good defenses, and if the other defensive coordinator, the defensive head coach, is able to just out scheme and out game plan Shane in that offense, I think that's the only way. Because I think other than that, if they go into games consistently with competent game plans and they're not completely outmatched from a coaching position, then there's no reason why Caleb Williams won't be incredibly successful offensively. I fail to see why he won't have a great year. what does that look like in terms of numbers, stuff like that? I don't really care, but I just am confident that you won't be able to watch this and be like, that wasn't a great year. And the only way it won't be a great year, you won't say, oh my God, Caleb Williams is not good enough. You would say, they could not execute that offense. What was that game plan? What was that play call? Why were they running the ball there? Why were they throwing the ball there? Like, it would just be clear to me that it was an issue of, like, say, coordinating or play calling. That's it, which is a great place to be, because then it means you got the quarterback, and that's the hardest thing to do, is to get the quarterback, and I think they have it. So Chicago Bears should be incredibly excited. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think, can Caleb Williams, has Caleb Williams proved that he is already that guy? Both from a fan perspective, team perspective, just also compared to what the other younger quarterbacks did in preseason. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.